In today's episode, we'll be talking about marketing your courses and building your momentum with Aditi Ramchandani.
Welcome to the Online Course Coach Podcast, brought to you by TrueFocusMedia.com. Whether you're a beginner or expert, this is the podcast for the latest in online course creation tips, news, interviews, and ideas. And here's your coach, Jeff Long.
Welcome back to another episode of the Online Course Coach Podcast. And today we're going to be talking a lot about the differences of private courses and public courses, or courses for companies versus courses for individuals or online influencers or people that are just online. And I think there is a huge untapped market with corporate e-learning, with private courses, and so we'll get into that. But before we do, I want to set up this interview just a little bit because we talk about some things, and I know a lot of you struggle with sales. And so Aditi and I talk about sales and how we're all in sales, we're all in marketing, and really all sales is helping people, is sharing the benefits of your services, and solving problems. It doesn't have to be this complicated thing where you're begging people to buy your course or to hire you. It really is finding different problems that people and companies are having and offering to help them. And that's really been the success of my company since 2003. And the agency I have and the services that me and my team provide is, as I'm talking to people, whether they're my current client or they're not yet a client, I just listen. I ask questions and I say, what would it mean if we could create a whole e-learning platform and put all the training you do online or behind the scenes or, give it to you to be able to leverage. And then I listen. Some companies, they say, that wouldn't really help. We have to do, X, Y, and Z in person or whatever. And so there's different other things that I can provide. So a lot of times listening is the easiest way to sell because they will tell you what they want. Another thing I want you to hear Aditi talk about is how many times she created momentum for herself. Now, I know this is important because with all the coaching I do, a lot of times it can be hard to find that momentum and get encouraged by it. So as you hear what she talks about, listen for ways of how you can create momentum in your own business. So if you're just starting out, what are some ways you can get one person on your email subscription service? Or what is one way that you can get one student on your course? Or what's one way you can make a connection or network with somebody? Think of that. Sometimes we hear too many things, what's the massive action you can take? And sometimes that's good. But I sometimes think, what's the one thing, the little thing you could do that will build momentum? And our guest today has some really good insights on that. Now, we talk a lot about corporate courses, which I have a lot of experience with, and so does Aditi, of course, as you'll learn. But I want to go over how to get some of those corporate clients, because that can seem intimidating, especially if you haven't worked in the corporate world or you're on the outside looking in or you just feel intimidated. So there are many different strategies. These are just a few that I want to spend a few minutes on. I probably should do a whole podcast on it or a whole course on how to find corporate clients to serve and create courses for. So if you would like an additional course on that, just shoot me an email, jeff@onlinecoursecoach.com. I know that I could create a pretty amazing course over all my years, over a decade of experience with corporate clients. But here are just some ways of finding corporate clients. First of all, go to networking meetups. If you go to meetup.com, you will find tons of different local meetups in your area based on different interests. So it might be just company networking. It might be marketing. It might be whatever. It might be on a specific platform. So if you love WordPress, maybe you want to network with other people in the WordPress community. You could get involved in local charities or nonprofits and either be on the board or just help. If they have a work day, you could get involved there. You could also get involved at your local church. If you are somebody that goes to church and you want to get involved there, the more you can get involved with local organizations, the better that is. You can also go to trade shows. I've done this before and I've had some really good results. In fact, one of my funny stories is I went to a trade show just recently, and in the elevator, before I even stepped foot on the trade show floor from the parking lot, there's a huge elevator. I stepped on the elevator and started talking with one of the guys in the elevator and told him what I do. And he said, wait a second, do you work, with this platform or do X, Y, or Z? And I said, yeah, of course, we can do a custom solution for you. He said, oh, you need to talk to, my boss. And so they were one of the biggest companies there at the trade show. They had a huge booth, huge presence, and I was able to talk with him and his team and this company, international company. It was fantastic. So you really never know who you're going to talk to when you go to a trade show. Hey, you might even step off or step onto the elevator just in the parking garage and talk to somebody. Another form of getting corporate clients or getting the word out and networking is speaking. So whether it's your Chamber of Commerce or Rotary or different meetup groups or different networking events, I've done that quite a bit with word camps, with different marketing groups. I've done quite a bit of speaking, and I'm looking to do even more in as I progress. So if you know of a conference or trade show that needs a speaker, let me know. I'd be happy to help. And then also writing for large publications is a great way to get your name out because people in the corporate world read business publications. So if you can be an author there, contributing author, you will get more influence. And then finding different ways to serve in your community. I've been amazed at the different ways of getting involved. I mean, you could even do a local podcast. Maybe you want to interview people in your community. You could find different businesses that you think you could serve, and you could do a podcast, and that could be your introduction to them. So there are lots of different opportunities. Again, if you want a whole separate course on that, shoot me an email. Let me know if that's something you're interested in. But corporate courses are something that is, to me, there's huge opportunities. And so let's get into our podcast interview today. I actually met Aditi Ramchandani in an online course. We were both taking a course together. It's kind of a high-level, high-ticket item course. And we got to know each other, and I saw some of the things she was doing. I was just very impressed. And then we connected. And Aditi has a lot of experience, and she is one of these people that you can tell just gets it done. And I told her after we did the recording, so many of the answers that I asked her, so many of the strategies she gives are the same ones that I recommend. And so you can tell that she is making it happen. She's serving her clients and doing an amazing job. And so a little bit about Aditi is she is a digital marketing strategist that works with businesses and entrepreneurs to build strong brands through strategic brand communication, online visibility, and expert positioning. So let's bring Aditi onto the show. Aditi, thanks so much for being on the Online Course Coach podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell me about your background and who you serve.
Absolutely. So I have been in marketing for 14 years now. I really believe that marketing was just in my blood when I was born. I was literally marketing things before I even knew what marketing was. And I basically did my undergrad and a master's degree, both in marketing. And I did 6 years in corporate America before going back to grad school and then starting my marketing business full time. And now what I've been doing is I've been working with entrepreneurs and businesses, usually the mid-size range, and helping them with their marketing and their online visibility, most importantly, their brand communications, and helping them really position their company as the leader in the industry.
That's great. That's great. Now we'll get to courses and that whole side in a minute,
Yeah.
but tell me, what are maybe some common struggles or some common things that you see that a lot of these businesses, being your clients, what do they struggle with? What are some of the things you help them overcome?
I think that these businesses, typically they come in to work with me when they are not really sure what marketing is, but they feel like they should be doing it. and they want to grow their business. Essentially, it's always the bottom line. And I believe that with business, there's just so many routes and so many ways that you can go that I think it gets really overwhelming with all of the
Mm.
information out there. So I really help to make it clearer and simple and help adapt the companies to what strategies that would work best for them versus for the mass.
Yeah, that's good. And I've seen that too, that, a company will hear about X, Y, or Z platform, YouTube
Yeah.
or Facebook or this or that, and
Yep.
they feel pressure like they have to dive in, but they don't know how, or they get overwhelmed. Or on the flip side, they're like, who cares about that whatever platform, and
Right,
like that
right,
Facebook isn't here to stay, that's a trend.
right.
And do you find that for some of those things you have to educate a lot or almost convince them, or do you have a platform or a system that you kind of guide them to find the best platform? How do you operate with that?
I think when people first come in, they want to be a part of everything. They want to join every platform. Like that's what I've seen, they get really excited. I got to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and this, like you said, this new one that opened up. And I usually guide them based on what their goals are and which customers they're serving to help determine which platform is best. So what I love is that each business typically has a custom strategy with maybe like five main things that, every business should do, but then it becomes custom based on what their goals are.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Now, you and I have talked a little bit about your background in courses, but tell me, how did you first introduce, maybe even how did you think of creating online courses or courses that are customized for a company? Because a lot of times people think of online courses just for, entrepreneurs or general people, but not for companies. So how did you take this to your clients?
For sure. What I've seen is a lot of times companies provide on the job training for different roles that they have. So, especially for startups and mid-sized companies with maybe 50 to 1,000 employees, when they hire and bring new people on, there are times where they need to learn everything about social media from the foundational level. And there's no really streamlined way to teach this without it being live, without it costing a lot of money and all that kind of extra stuff. So online courses is really great for companies to use internally with their employees for training, but also externally for their customers. And I think what I love about online courses, it's becoming more and more of a thing, and people love to learn. And it really allows companies to build a stronger relationship with their customers in a new way, in a way that's easy and comfortable, where they can take the training from their own home, from their computers.
Yeah, and that's what I love too, is that just-in-time learning or
Hmm.
flexible learning where, an employee doesn't necessarily have to be at work,
Right.
or, I mean, that's obviously up to their company guidelines when they can take that course and whatnot.
Right.
Um, so talk to me, what's the difference between a private course and a public course?
Sure. So a private course would be a course that is not publicly advertised. It's only for a select group of individuals. It's more like invitation only, you could
Mm.
say. So I actually first started my first course as a private course. And at the time I was in grad school, I was already in the online world. Right now, I've been in the online world for like 5 years. So at that time, I understood the world of courses and the benefits of them. And I was in grad school for marketing, and I had friends who were entrepreneurs. So I thought, hey, I know that they're seeking marketing help, and I'm in school. And why don't I put some things together based on what I'm learning? It'll also be a good way for me to integrate what I'm learning, as well as get into that teacher role, because I knew down the line that I did want to teach marketing to businesses. So it was just kind of the perfect timing. And that one was a private course where I just did a private invitation to a select group of people who were in my network or who I knew had expressed interest in seeking marketing in the past. And I simply sent them an email, told them about the course, what it was going to include. And my first course, I actually did a donation because I was nervous about charging.
Sure.
And, when you're moving from corporate America to business, you kind of are still in that mindset of being an employee. So you're not
Mm.
used to, selling and all that kind of stuff. So I started with a donation in the beginning. I did two courses like that while I was in grad school. And then towards the end of it is when I launched my first public course. And public course literally means that it's public, it's out there, you're advertising it, you're promoting it, it's on your social media, everybody knows about it.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's the
good. And one thing with private courses is, you can either white label them so that, a company can brand them as their own. And then if you have it in the contract correctly, you would
exactly,
be able to white label it to multiple companies.
exactly.
And so that's what I love too, is you're really leveraging the power of a course to serve multiple companies, multiple clients, make everybody happy, but make each one of them feel like it's their own course.
Yep.
And so I've done it that way, and then I've done it where I've created specific modules just for client A. Maybe like 10% of the course is specifically for them. And then 90% is kind of a general course for everybody, and then I customize it for company B. 10% is customized just for them. So it's kind of fun the ways that you can really leverage that to help more companies.
I love that. That's a really, really great idea.
Yeah, yeah. I did that too with my first public course, which was more for entrepreneurs. It was how to build a website platform, and I did it for different niches. So the bulk of the content was the same, but then I
Hmm.
customized, various pieces throughout the course. So I didn't have to redo the whole course, because that would take a long time. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a really great way to organize it and be efficient.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it's all about efficiency and helping the most amount of people without overwhelming yourself, which is which is a good
Yeah.
thing. Now, I
Which is
like
another
that.
thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Now, I like that you offered that first course, and even though you took donations, it was still just that alone set you apart. Meaning, you knew the value of it. Maybe you didn't know what the value was, but you knew it was valuable enough to ask for donations.
For sure.
What kind of feedback did you get? Did you get anybody that threw a shoe at you or got mad at you, or was everybody pretty much like, yeah, like this deserves some money?
Yeah, everybody was more than happy because they were actually lost in marketing. So for
Yeah,
them, I was solving that problem for them by offering it. So they were like, "Oh yeah, like I think everyone signed up within that same day that I emailed." So,
awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
And the reason I ask that question is a lot of people, especially people that are new to courses or selling or marketing, it can seem scary. You kind of think, hey, will somebody throw a shoe at me or get mad or whatever? And generally most people don't, especially if you're feeling that hole or fulfilling that need that they have.
For
So I'm
sure.
glad that you were able to overcome that. Was it as hard as you thought when you sent that email?
No, I think it's all the thoughts in your mind before you send the email.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the
Oh
hard
yeah.
part. But once you like actually write it and send it, it's really, and you're like, oh man, I should have done this so much earlier. And and then when I ran the course, it was so easy.
Mm.
Honestly, I was like, wow, like I can get paid to do this. This is amazing. And because of that first course, I actually the word already spread to a few other people, and then they said that they wanted to take it. So I already had a demand for more people wanting to take it from the first private course. And then the next round, I think I charged like 150. So like I upped
Mm.
it. I think the donation was like $20 all the way up to 150. And those people also signed up and paid right away when I sent out the email. So I was like, wow, there's something really to this online
Yeah.
course thing. And
That's great.
yeah, so that was like exciting in the beginning.
Now, did you add content or add bonuses or different things for the different rounds or versions that you had of that course?
The first two private courses, I just had strictly the content.
Mhm.
So no bonuses or anything initially. But when I did my first launch of my public course, I did have bonuses. Typically, each round they are similar, but sometimes I may just add or change one thing, like add a
Mhm.
guest expert or add some new thing that I had created that would be beneficial for them.
Sure. And the reason I ask that is so many people that I coach feel like the first version has to be the perfect version of the
Yep.
course. And it's freeing for a lot of people to think, "Oh wait, I can actually change this thing. I can improve it, tweak it, lengthen it, shorten it, whatever that is." And so
Absolutely.
that's one of the many benefits of an online course. Now, give me some details. What were these different public and private courses about? What were some of the topics?
Sure. So the first one was about building a strong brand. And the second one was about building a strong social presence. So the world of social media, all of that. And then the next one, this was the public one, was about how to get visible online, like how to bring your business online. Because what's great is there were some businesses who are brick and mortar and they want
Mhm.
to move into the online space. So that course at the time was called Get Seen, Get Paid. So it was literally what the name is. It's like showing you how to get seen online and get visible so you can get paid for your services. And that was more of a comprehensive course. And then I had a more in depth advanced course called Confident Marketing Academy. So I kind of had a starter course and then a more in depth course after
Nice.
that.
Now, the courses that you were selling to companies, did that seem like an easier sell than the courses you were selling to individual? And I know individuals work at companies, of course, but uh, you know, does that question make sense? Like, was it easier to sell to people that were in these maybe larger companies versus selling it to an individual, a sole proprietor that owns their own business?
Yeah, it was definitely much easier with
Yeah.
the companies because they already knew the value of marketing and I've noticed that, like, for example, brick and mortar companies, etc., they understand the value of it.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, maybe a few years ago they wouldn't have, but I think marketing has become really, really popular and well known now that it's very well known that this is an important investment to make.
Yeah. And the reason I asked that question, kind of teeing up that question, is to the audience. Well, and to everybody is I found the same thing, and I think a lot of it's because when you're selling to companies, and when I say that, maybe you're selling or working with the HR department, the marketing department, whatever that
Hmm.
is, they have a budget,
Yeah.
and they're going to spend it with you or with somebody else. Versus when you're working with a single person, business, small business, sole
Right.
proprietor, whatever, it's like it's coming out of their pocket.
Right. That's
And
so true.
that they think more carefully about it. So
Right.
whenever I'm doing my coaching with people, I always ask, is there a way we can take this to a corporate environment? Because sometimes there's a lot more money to be made because they already have a budget for it.
That's such a great point. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, one strategy I've done with some of my larger corporate clients is I will try to get to the value that the course or the service that I'm providing has. Meaning, I had a client one time that said, "We have 3 full-time employees and we're working with this outdated learning management system." And I said, "Okay, tell me about that. How much time do you think you're wasting every week putting content up there?" And she kind of ran some numbers. She's like, "I mean, it might waste 10 hours between the three of us per week." And
Mm,
so I went and I did the math. I kind of averaged out maybe an average salary. And I said, okay, if you're wasting 10 hours a week, times X amount of weeks, et cetera, here's how much you're losing with your current learning management system or your software. And so,
mm,
so then when I pitched my learning management software, I was able to provide the value. Like I know I can shave off X amount of hours or percentage of time each week or month or whatever. And so to the audience, I would encourage you to do the same. How can your course, how can you prove the value that your course can provide? And you do have to be careful with that, right? Because you can't guarantee what the end user will do, right? Like
right.
I can't say to the client, "Hey, client, I guarantee if you watch my course, you're gonna learn X, Y, or Z and become a millionaire or whatever."
Right.
Like they have to apply it, right?
For
So you do
sure,
have
for
to be
sure.
careful, but. Um, there are different in your guarantees, you can even say, hey, if you apply X, Y, and Z or do whatever, then I guarantee that you will have, results or whatever. So just some things to think about.
That's actually something I've seen as well in general for the audience to know, to
Mhm.
definitely keep that very clear, because I've noticed being someone who runs courses and have students in them, I've seen that there are a number of people who expect the course to be the magic pill to
Right.
change everything. And, so just be very clear on what this course includes, what it's going to deliver, and, what are the potential outcomes. But yeah, exactly. Be very clear on the guarantees.
Yeah. And I think too, no matter if it's a private course for a company or a public course for just anybody in the world, I think it's very clear that we have who the course is for. Because in a way that can actually help us too, because maybe we go into a company and maybe they don't need the advanced level, Facebook ad strategy, whatever that's for advanced people. Maybe they
Exactly.
just need like basic tips and tools.
Yep.
And so there's more money in that for us because we can create different levels and courses and whatnot.
Right.
So I always like it when a course says, hey, this course is perfect for you if you are
Right.
this type of person.
Yep.
So in your mind, what do people need to have to get started with their first course?
So there are a few things that people need to have. One for sure is having a course outline. Like, what is the
Mm,
course going to entail? What is it going to include? What is it going to help people with? All that kind of stuff. You want to make sure that you have some sort of sales page, whether that's a website, like a link on your actual website that goes over the course basics and etc. And also, most importantly, this one people surprisingly forget, but having a payment method, having a way for the people to pay for the course, whether that's through a certain payment system, etc., that you can embed on the website. And another thing is being able to deliver it. So
mm,
whether that's through like a learning management system or one of these course sites like Thinkific, Teachable, etc., but having a way to deliver it to the person. Actually, my first course, I think I just did it on Google Drive
mm, mhm.
because I was just starting out and just had a few people, and I literally just used email, Google Hangouts for the video conferencing, and used Google Drive for the slides and kind of the working documents where I would review people's work and etc. inside of it. So it doesn't have to be as complicated as sometimes we make it to start out.
Yeah.
And an email marketing system to be able to keep in touch with everybody who enrolls in your course and sending out the emails. And most importantly, having free content, which kind of leads up to your course launch and all of that.
Yeah, that's good. Now, I know there's different mindsets. Personally, I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. So I'm not looking for a definitive, it has to be this way. But what's your preference? Are you more of a uh, do a couple launches per year for your course, or do you have them up and available at all times? And obviously, we're talking about your public courses here.
For sure. What I like to do is I like to run the course a few times first, just because I like to make sure that I have all the questions answered. I've really gotten in the customer's mind to really understand what they need help with. And I've actually found that there's some things here and there that weren't very clear. So I had to change it or redo it or tweak it and make it better. So once I've run it a few times, then what I do is I do make it available for purchase outside of it being run live.
Hmm, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, in your estimation, you went over some of the different platforms, some of the different integrations, for starting their first course. What would you estimate, the cost to run a course?
So I actually put some numbers together because I had written this out and I find it very fascinating. So I wanted to share it. But in general, I've found that it takes, now this would be more on a smaller scale,
Mhm.
um, about 0 to 200, up to $300, I'd say, to run a course. And sometimes I've seen other course creators, say like $1,000 or this much or whatever. I'm not including Facebook ads or any of that. This is
Mhm.
just organically running the course. And my first course was literally a zero cost because, like I said, I used Google Hangouts, I used Google Drive, and just used email. So
Mhm.
that was like a zero cost, made some money off of zero cost. And then the second time, also zero cost. And now when we moved into the public course, that's when I started to spend a little bit more money. Um, my sales page was $500 at that time.
Mm.
So if you were to take the sales page out and just use the other tools, I only spent $30. And
Mm.
that course I made well over 5K with initially when I'm starting my business. So that was super cool for me because I was just out of grad school, starting out, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then my third course was actually my first 10K course, so $10,000 in sales. And that one I only spent $300, which is
Wow. That's great.
crazy
That's great.
because no Facebook ads, no nothing. I literally did it with my warm audience, people I was connected to in my network. Contacted my past clients if they wanted to jump into the next advanced one. And then at that time, I made it fancy. Now I had a platform, I had videos uploaded, all of that kind of good stuff.
Mm.
So I was able to charge more of a premium price as well because I did have that set up. But again, it didn't cost me a ton of money. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that this is sometimes a myth that you need to have a lot of money to start, but you really don't. So that's what I'm always encouraging people to start off. You don't need a lot of funds.
That's good. That's so good. Now, you mentioned, you just say your sales page was $500. Explain what that was. Was it copywriting? Was it a custom site? What was it?
That one was literally a design. So she designed it to make it look really good and fancy. But then what I realized later, when I did my most recent course, which was the 10K course, there's so many softwares and platforms out
Mhm.
there where you can create really nice sales pages for a very minimal amount of money. Whether you do it, through lead pages, which I think is like 37 a month, or Entreport 150 a month. So every single platform, Entre Pages, I think is maybe $10 a month. You can make a really nice sales page, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So that first time, I think I was just trying to go for the gold and do everything right, and honestly, I had sold a lot of seats to that course before the sales page was even ready. So it was
Mhm.
just kind of like it felt like a waste in one way, but at the same time,
Right.
it looked really good. So it gave me good credibility. So I was okay with it.
Sure. Now, how have you built your audience over the years? Because I find that a lot of people, especially when I'm coaching people, that one of the main hurdles is they don't have an audience, they don't have influence, they don't have a following. So how have you built that over the years?
Sure. So I originally had an inspirational blog when I first started in the online world 5 years ago. It was called I Live with Joy. And I had already built up a certain amount of following till then. But the problem was when I was moving into marketing, it was a completely different topic. So I kind of had to start from scratch again and wipe that out and start over. So I can speak to that. And when I first restarted, what I did, and I love to share this because it really, really works, is I did 6 weeks of free marketing classes
Hmm.
back to back. And that's how I started. I was like, I made a big announcement on social media that I'm a marketing strategist for small business owners. This is a new uh, business I'm starting, and I'm offering these free marketing classes. Like anyone and everyone, please come, invite your friends, tell people about it. And I'll be honest, those first 6 classes, there were not a lot of people on it. I think honestly, there was maybe one or two people
Mm.
in
Mhm.
each of those classes. But I think that's where it all starts. That's where you
Yeah.
start building your credibility. That's how you show people, how good you are and show people your expertise and help people. And there was always at least one person on. So it made me feel a little better that I was talking to someone,
Right.
And then my plan was that at the end of those 6 weeks, I would launch my first public course.
Mm.
And I was absolutely terrified, didn't want to do it, was kicking and screaming. I said, you know what, maybe I should just get a job. It was like those
Mm.
initial jitters.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I made a deal with myself. The only thing you need to do, Aditi, is just announce the course at the end of your class. You don't have to do anything else. And at that time, I literally had nothing set up or nothing ready. So that's why I literally tell everyone you can literally start with where you are and what you have. So at that point, when I did my webinar online, I literally just had a few slides. I had the name of the course and a few slides of what was going to be in it. And then the last slide was email me if you're interested. I didn't have any links. I didn't have any payment buttons. I didn't have a sales page, nothing. But that was my deal with myself because I was just so scared. And I think sometimes we do get overwhelmed with all of the anxiety of it.
Yeah.
And and you won't believe it. That night, I had someone join my course. And another thing I did was I posted in different Facebook groups that allowed you to post. And so I had this one special lady who joined that call that day, and she was from a Facebook group, had never met her in real life. So this was kind of my first semi-stranger. And she emailed me that night and said, I'm interested in joining your course. And I was like, no way, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And at that time it was now $247 because, I started with a $20 donation. So to me, I was like, this is so crazy. And what's amazing too is because I was so visible online, I actually got a message from a Facebook person, a friend, a connection who was interested in doing some deeper coaching work with me because of the post she saw, and literally signed my first coaching client at that point, paid $1,000 in full. I was just floored. I was like, wow, like there's really something to this here. And within those first 8 to 10 weeks, I made my first 3K. Now, and starting from zero, starting from no audience, nothing, that's a huge deal. So that was huge for me. So I really was very visible. And I tell everyone, I tell my community too, teaching classes is the way to build an audience because that is how people will really see what you're all about. And people are likely to pay for things. Like I've had people watch maybe just one of my webinars and have signed up for a $500 course, a $1,500 course, etc., just from one webinar. So it's really, really cool that you can build these relationships. Facebook groups has been huge for me as well. I've had multiple clients that have joined from us connecting in a Facebook group. So if you're starting from zero, starting from scratch, it's just, I really believe is about showing up, giving value, teaching, being visible is huge. Because if you're hiding in your closet, hoping that people are going to come and know what you do, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's the biggest part I've seen of people coming out of the hiding has been the hardest, more than the even course creation. It's like coming out of the hiding.
Well, I think a lot of people struggle with that because we see these big gurus online, like, oh, make a course or do this and you'll make millions. And it's like, well, they have the audience, they have the influence, And so for people that are just starting out or they don't have that audience, I love some of those tips you gave. I want to kind of run through them.
Sure.
One thing I love how you, in a way, challenged yourself, like just send out an email, make a really basic offer or mention it at the end of the class. Like it doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be scary. I was in I took an online course a year or two ago, and part of it was we got to fly to California and have a kind of a meetup type of thing. And there were, 40 or 50 of us that were able to make it. And I made a mental note over the course of 2 or 3 days, how I think everybody in the group at one time or another said something like, I'm in business doing this and I hate sales, but blah, 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 and they kind of kept going. I'm like, wait a second, like, why does everybody hate sales? And really, it's just serving, it's just asking, it's teaching. It's, I think the sales, as you've pointed out, flow out of you helping, serving, teaching your audience. And so it doesn't have to be, sales doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be intimidating. And so I love that, first of all, you challenged yourself. I love that you got started, even though it was one person here, one person there.
Yep.
What kept you going when it was just one person here or there?
I think maybe those gurus and influencers got in my head and I thought about the possibilities. And honestly, I I knew that I could do it. Like I knew that I could be a good teacher,
Hmm.
and the freedom of running your own business and having the freedom to teach from online without having to physically go somewhere. I loved that, and the possibilities I think is what kept me going. And I was like, I think that this is really a thing, and this is possible. And actually, speaking of companies using courses. Northwestern is where I went to school, and our marketing school actually created an online course and to teach marketing on a very basic level. And I believe it's either a free course or a really, really cheap course, but it's made by one of the professors. And because of that course, one, it's gained so much popularity on the internet. Two, it's brought light to Northwestern's marketing
Yeah.
program. So now students who took that really basic, cheap marketing course are now looking to enroll at Northwestern's marketing program because of it. So I was like, wow, what a great marketing tool for this university, because I don't think I see a lot of universities doing this. So this was quite a cool thing to see of how they were using courses to actually promote their business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, as you are building your audience and doing these live classes, just so the audience is clear, was this online or was this locally in person?
Everything was online. I think
Great.
maybe one of my private courses was partially in person just
Mhm.
because those were some entrepreneur friends I had. So we were doing some in person stuff, but mostly everything has been online.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, what are some ways that you were able to teach those courses online? I'm
I
talking
was
about the free live marketing seminars.
like the platform I used or how
Yeah.
I delivered it. Sure.
Yeah, how you delivered it, both. Yeah.
Perfect. So now, live stream is so huge that you could
Yeah.
literally just turn on Facebook Live and do a class. But at that time, since Facebook didn't have live, what I was doing, I first started using Google Hangouts.
Mhm.
So that was a live tool as well. So people could come hang out live, and then the replay would be on YouTube, and then I would share the YouTube video. Send out the replay to my email list, etc. And then I started using Zoom video conferencing.
Right.
And I absolutely love Zoom because what you get to do is have everyone can potentially be on video camera together. So it really feels like you're in a conference room together. And I was one of the early adopters of using Zoom. And I feel like that kind of set me apart from other business owners because people really liked that close connection and that hand holding and that
Mhm.
real person effect, with me being there, me being on camera, people, because sometimes, when I first told my dad I was doing all this, he was just like, well, how are people going to know that you're real and this is a real thing? And, like all the scammy ideas that
Uh-huh.
come with a potential online course, but it really makes it very real when you are
Yeah.
on video and you're really engaging with people and answering their specific questions. It takes away that unfamiliarity. It really brings it home. And I think, a lot of my clients have stayed with me from the beginning, like
Mm.
from that first public course, quite a few of them have stayed with me and been with me in every other course I've launched or any program I've launched. So it's all about building those relationships and continuing to follow up and etc.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Now, I know that you're a marketing specialist, and we're talking obviously here about courses. So, what is maybe one of your favorite marketing strategies to help people enroll in a course?
So my absolute favorite marketing strategy is doing a pre-sale.
Mm.
Because if you are nervous and terrified or anxious, I think that if you have a few people enrolled in your course before you publicly start advertising it, you're going to feel really good about it. You're going to feel confident. You're going to be like, yeah, there's already 4 people enrolled,
Mm.
etc. And how you do that is you literally reach out to people in your network. So that's what I did initially. I was like, hey, I know that you're, pursuing this venture. I am doing these marketing classes. I think that it would be a great, help for your business, etc. Would love to have you join. And what I would do is I would give them a special price that wasn't available to the public. So it would be a little bit cheaper than what I would advertise publicly. And I would let them know that. So they're getting extra benefit, that they're getting a cheaper price. And if you want to throw in any other bonuses, you can do that too. But when you offer something at a really, really great value and you show them how awesome it is, you're likely to have a couple people sign up before you even start promoting it. So I think that is one of my favorite things to do, to really start that going. And what I tell people too is you don't have to have the whole course created before you start selling it. So, sometimes, procrastination gets the best of me, but when I pre-sell, it's like, oh no, now I have to create this because
Exactly.
someone paid me money for it,
A little bit of pressure there, a good pressure.
a good pressure. And it's great because it forces you to create, and it forces you to kind of work through whatever blocks you might have from creating, and you will be amazed with what you create. That's what happened to me. Each time I create something new, I'm like, wow, that was really good. Didn't know you had this inside of you,
Yeah, no, that is good. I can tell that you're a really good marketer for a couple of reasons. First of all, you're very authentic. I can tell that you don't hype things up. You don't kind of over market, don't oversell or whatever, over promote. I think a lot of people in the marketing industry, which in a way I think we all are in the marketing industry, right? We're marketing ourselves and our services, but
Absolutely.
it is easy, this kind of slippery slope of kind of feeling, I don't know, spammy or scammy or whatever. And so I can tell that you do a good job with that. The second thing I can tell you're really good at is getting momentum. You keep talking about these different strategies of, hey, just get a couple people already in your course before you make it publicly available. That's a kind of a psychological thing to help you get momentum and keep that ball rolling down the hill. And so I love that.
Thank you.
Without, maybe you haven't even realized it, but I've just noticed that you're really good at kind of building momentum. Because as I coach people, I think that's one of the challenges is building that momentum, seeing those little victories, and then challenging yourself to keep going when it is hard, when it is small, and you've done a good job at that. And I think that's one of the keys of success in business is showing up every day, doing the little things, whether it's easy or when it is difficult, when it's discouraging and exciting. So that's just part of being in business here.
Absolutely.
So what do you find that people struggle with most in terms of creating and running a course? Because there's a lot of components to it, but what are some of maybe the bigger things that people struggle with?
So I've found that when it comes to creating, people get really overwhelmed about what to put inside the course. So I always like to help kind of break it down further. Like, first of all, what is the end goal? What are these people going to get from taking your course? What do you want that to be? And, there are starter products or courses, there's more advanced courses, etc. And I like to have people kind of break it down, because the truth is you can't really get 100% of a transformation with one course. There's just so much involved that it might be that you're helping the customer get from 0 to 20%, or maybe from 0 to 50% to the solution, etc., wherever you're trying to get them go. So really getting clear on what they're going to get out of it, and then working backwards. What are the main, I always say, my favorite number is 5, so I just stick to that. But what are the 5 main areas that are kind of the process step to get you from A to B. And then you can break down further in each of those 5 areas if there's more things to break down. And I always like to invite people to make shorter videos rather than longer videos. I actually used to make the long videos. I would have 1 hour course module. And I realized later that, man, it's really annoying to sit here and watch a whole hour thing if you're just trying to get one little part done. So I started breaking down my courses to much smaller videos where I've seen some courses that even have 3-minute videos in each module, which is pretty impressive that you can get the main content in. But mine usually range from 5 to 15 minutes, which I think is a good time frame too. So creation is always really hard, one. And then I've seen people really get stuck in not feeling like they are the expert or they have all the information ready or they need to wait. And same thing like what you said earlier, I encourage people get out version 1.0 because I'm telling you, your version 1.0 is actually going to be much better than you think in your head because you may have, for me too, I've had big dreams of wanting to do a million things, but it's really just not physically human possible sometimes. When you're just starting out, it's very overwhelming. So you have to just start where you are rather than trying to be like 100 steps ahead. So I always tell people to start with the outline. And honestly, you can start making pre-sales with the outline because you are an expert, you are good at what you do. Or if it's a company, like you guys have already established your expertise. So that's not going to be an issue. It's more about, having that outline ready. And actually last year I had sold pre-sold one of my courses and I literally just had an outline, but I did make it into a little bit of a PowerPoint. So I kind of presented it to my clients who were taking my previous course to invite them to enroll in this next advanced course. I didn't have a sales page or anything ready yet. So this was a complete pre-sale. And at that point, I think it was $750 for one. And I got like four sales. So I made like $3,000 with no sales page, anything. It's just an outline, but I knew what I was talking about. I was clear on what was going to be offered. So that was amazing to me that this is possible because, we get caught up in everything needing to be perfect and set up. I didn't even know where I was going to host it yet. Like I figured it out because then now I had the funds so I could invest in, the platform and all that kind of stuff.
Now, do you think you could have done that for your first course, or did it take you going through the process, the steps of kind of building your confidence, the platform, to be able to sell a course you haven't made yet?
I did that from the beginning.
Okay.
I always, because, the $20 donation, that one, of course, I hadn't made it yet. And I started making it. But I think I had done it a few times, so I saw it worked. And I also had learned from other entrepreneurs that they had also created along the way. Yeah. So I thought, okay, this is a thing. People do this. I can do this. I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to definitely deliver what they're paying. Like I'm going to have integrity in my business, So I knew that was not an issue. So I think, and I made it very clear. I told them, I was like, hey, I'm going to create this along the way, but on purpose, because I want to make sure that I'm answering all of your questions and including that inside of it. And then you guys will have the recordings to keep. And typically that first round of people, I give it at a better price than the other versions.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that strategy too. And the reason I asked is, and I was hoping you would answer the way you did, is I know a lot of people, especially in this audience, that have not created a course yet. They're thinking about it. It sounds intimidating. Some people even think it sounds a little like you don't have integrity if you're selling something you haven't made. But I like the point that you said that you have integrity. You are going to deliver that course. You just need, people to show that they're interested in it.
Exactly.
Because I love that method too. And what I love, one of the things I love most about it is your students get the course that they want to need. They get a custom course. So in a way you should sell it to them for more, right? I know you're not going to, but because it's customized directly to them. So that's high value. That's a lot of value.
And this is a great way to validate your idea for your course, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting any pre-sales, maybe you need to go back to the drawing board and see if you are offering what your customer actually wants.
Well, Aditi, I could talk for a long time. I know you've got a lot going on, and I want to respect your time. So I appreciate you being here on the show today. But where can the listeners learn more about you and your services?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone can head over to mybrandvoice.com, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Well, Aditi, thanks so much for being on the Online Course Coach podcast.
Thank you.
Well, I knew you would learn a lot from that interview with Aditi, whether you're just starting out or whether you have courses under your belt, you've been doing this for a while. I'm sure you picked up some good strategies from her. Well, hey, like I said in the beginning, sales is all about helping people sharing the benefits of your services, and solving problems. So whether you do that with corporate-based courses that are private, or public-based courses that are for a specific industry or niche audience online or locally, it doesn't matter. Sales is all about serving. So let me know how you are doing with your sales, with your marketing, and what questions you have with getting corporate clients. Another thing I love that Aditi talked about was, her specialty is marketing, but you can tell she's not into hyping things up. She's very authentic, and that's what I love. A lot of times I think, especially as I've talked to some of you and other people, in my community and different things, we want to market, but we don't want to sound like typical marketers. We don't want to we don't want to use the same language or have these words where everything's a buy now or else, or just have false promises, false deadlines, all these different things. We want to be authentic. So I want to make sure that this podcast is authentic, and I hope and I know that you want your courses and your marketing to be authentic. So think of ways where you can do that, whether it's in your Facebook Lives, whether it's doing different speaking or podcasts, because I find the more people that can listen to you or watch you personally, the more they find out that you are authentic. So it's easy to hide behind email marketing or Facebook posts or whatever it is. And sometimes we get caught in the trap of not being authentic in those. Whereas if we're on something that's live or pre-recorded, we can be more authentic. So just think about that as you keep thinking about your courses, whether you're just creating a course or you're wanting to market your course even more. Hey, if you haven't gone to onlinecoursecoach.com in a while, there are some new things that you want to check out. There's a videos tab where you can watch some very short videos where I take a specific topic and talk for generally 5 minutes or less. It's part of some of the Facebook Live videos I've been doing. Go on there and check out some of the videos, and also check out some of the past podcasts. And then lastly, if you enjoy the show, I know a lot of you have been listening for quite some time, and I've gotten quite a few emails here just in the last week or two of people that have just found the podcast and said they've gone back and listened to a lot of the episodes. Regardless if you've been listening for a long time or just catching up, I would be tremendously honored if you would leave a rating or review. I don't ask for this a lot. If you go to onlinecoursecoach.com/review, that will take you to iTunes, where you can leave an iTunes review. If you listen to this on Android, you can go to the website and find links in the sidebar to Android or Stitcher and leave a review there. But Apple Podcasts or Apple iTunes is my preferred method. So again, go to onlinecoursecoach.com/review. We'll keep coming back to the podcast. I've got some good interviews lined up and some good solo shows. And if you need coaching, you can just go to the website. There's a coaching tab there. Fill out the form. See if we're a good fit. We'll chat a little bit about how I can best help you, talk more details, and get you all set up for a coaching plan and help you get your course launched or created. Or if you just need help with marketing or getting to that next part of the process, let me know how I can help. Well, hey, keep coming back to the podcast. And I say it every time, but it is truly my goal to help you, to teach many, to impact millions.